It is 1524, and the Spanish have just conquered the Mayan city of Xtimj. The Spaniards are impressed by the advanced nature of the city, but they're not impressed enough to stay. They pack up and they leave and they burn the city to the ground before they go. This is the country of Guatemala today. But what happened here between then and now? Let's find out. Hello, and welcome to this channel. Our story begins long before the Spanish showed up. We'll actually start at the beginning with the Mayans. Despite being just 80 miles wide and 200 miles deep, modern-day Guatemala contains some of the most impressive Maya sites, including Tikal, El Pilar, and Yac. These magnificent cities were built around the 6th century and would flourish for the next 300 years until the 9th century, when suddenly the Maya abandoned them. Why they abandoned these cities is still a mystery, but it didn't have anything to do with the Spanish. They wouldn't show up for another 500 years. In the meantime, small villages started to pop up in the area. These villages consisted of people who had survived the plague that had killed so many Mayans. Some of these survivors were the ancestors of the modern-day Maya, while others were the descendants of the conquerors from the old empires. When the Spanish finally showed up in the 16th century, they found these villages, and the people living there spoke a mix of languages that would become known as Spanish. The conquistadors decided that this was God's will, and that they should convert these people to Christianity and enslave them. The Spanish crown divided the land among a few conquistadors and began building their own settlements. The capital of this new settlement would be named Santiago de los Caballeros, or St. James of the Knights. Today, we call it Guatemala City. In 1543, the settlement was attacked by the Aztec army. The Aztecs were led by a man named Tempe. He wanted to conquer all of Central America and make it part of his empire. But his army wasn't strong enough, and the Spanish were able to hold off the attack. As time went on, the Spanish began to lose interest in the colony. It wasn't very profitable, and there were constant battles with the natives. In the 17th century, the Spanish crown decided to merge the colony of Guatemala with the colony of Chiapas. This would create a new and more powerful colony that would be called the Captaincy General of Guatemala. Guatemala would remain a part of Spain until 1821, when the Mexican War of Independence reached its territory. When Mexico became independent, Guatemala declared its own independence, but they didn't want to be a republic. They wanted to be a federal state. They joined with El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica to form the Federal Republic of Central America. But this didn't last long. In 1838, Guatemala became a sovereign nation once again. The new country was poor and unstable. There were frequent civil wars and unrest. In 1865, the country was offered to the United States for $10 million. The U.S. declined the offer. The next year, the Liberal Party came to power and began making reforms. They introduced a new constitution and a new currency. They also began building railroads and schools. In 1910, a group of liberals overthrew the government in a coup d'etat. They established a dictatorship and began persecuting the conservatives. In 1920, the dictator was assassinated, and a period of instability followed. During World War II, Guatemala aligned itself with the Axis powers. After the war, the Guatemalan people became increasingly frustrated with the government. In 1944, students and workers took to the streets to protest the high cost of living. The military responded with force, but this only led to more protests. By 1954, the situation had become so bad that the United States intervened and overthrew the government. This intervention was part of a larger plan to stop the spread of communism in Latin America. The CIA trained a group of Guatemalan exiles to invade the country and take over the government. They flew back to Guatemala in June and landed in the capital. They seized 2 airports and several military bases and then marched into the city. The president fled the country and the exiles took control of Guatemala. The new leader of Guatemala was a man named Carlos Castillo Armas. He was a former general who had been in exile in Mexico. With the help of the United States, he established a dictatorship. He ruled the country with an iron fist and soon began to crack down on the people. He imprisoned thousands and tortured them for their political beliefs. In 1957, Carlos Castillo Armas was assassinated by a member of his own secret police. This led to more instability and violence. In 1960, a group of army officers overthrew the government and established a military junta. They promised to hold elections, but never did. Instead, they ruled the country for the next 20 years. In the 1980s, the military government faced a serious threat. A group of leftist guerrillas was growing in strength. They launched a major attack in 1982, which the military government crushed. The government then blamed the neighboring country of El Salvador for supporting the guerrillas. This led to the El Salvadoran-Guatemalan conflict. The conflict lasted for 10 years and resulted in the deaths of thousands. In 1996, the two countries signed a peace treaty ending the conflict. Today, Guatemala is a democracy. The country has a long way to go. Still, since the end of the Civil War, the economy has grown and the standard of living has risen. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to this channel.